Welcome to another episode of Diary of a Wannabe Comedian with me, Belle, a wannabe comedian. So, I'm still in Kent. Do you know, I must stop saying so. I realised how many times I say so. I mean, how many is that already? 4? 3? Anyway, that's another one. Anyway, need to stop both of those. Right, I digress. Let's get back to the point. I'm still in Kent. But that doesn't mean that I have not consumed some comedy, because my mum bought me a ticket to see Jason Manford at the Chatham Central Theatre, and that was on last night. And I was quite lucky to get it, I think, because speaking to the lady sat next to me, she said that it was originally cancelled. It should have been in March. So quite fortunate. Also fortunate in that it's not someone I would have bought a ticket to go and see myself. But having seen him, I was really glad I went. I thought it was really good. He's got such a nice way. I was working out his age. I think he's about 43, 44, something like that. So not very old, really. But he's still got a 25-year career behind him because he started at 19. And he's just, I guess he's like storytelling and quite personal. Obviously, he's talking a lot about his family. And it was just really nice evening. It's the only way I can describe it. And I laughed a lot. So put it in context, funnier than Ed Gamble. Ed Gamble's okay, but Jason Manford definitely funnier. He was also a lot thinner than I thought. I always had him down as a chubby person. Maybe he's lost weight, I don't know. But he didn't look like, he looked very well actually. I'm not saying he hasn't looked well before, because I really don't know him at all. And anyway, it was quite a learning experience. The person I had seen before was his warm-up act, who was a guy called let me get this right now, Funby Omateo. And I don't know where I've seen him, and it's driving me insane. But as soon as he came out, I was like, I've definitely seen his comedy before. I felt for him a bit, actually. So I think he misunderstood the area he was in. This is my personal view. So Medway, I said so again, didn't I? I'm just going to call this podcast So. I think that's what it is. So anyway, back to the point, Belle, back to the point. I think he misunderstood where he was, because I've been away from this area. I grew up in this area, but I've been away from this area for, trying to think, 20 odd years now. And it has, in terms of diversity, it has changed hugely. It was predominantly white, I would say, when I used to live here. Yeah, predominantly white, and then you'd have some Asian families. But now the black community is huge. It's, particularly in Gillingham. And I class Gillingham, Chatham, Rochester, Raynham, it's all the Medway towns, so it's all the same thing to me. But it is hugely diverse now, in my opinion. However, Jason Manford's audience is clearly not, because I was sat in the balcony, which is unusual for me. I always like to be, in the stalls up front. That's where I like to be. But I was in the balcony, and I was able to have a good view of absolutely all of it. And honestly, I just saw a sea of white faces. So I kind of get why he came out and, did the set he did. That's his set. I'm pretty sure I've heard some of it before, because he's a guy from Hackney. And yeah, it was all very race oriented. And I just thought, I know this audience are diverse in their thinking. You might not think they are, and you might look at them and think, oh, they're all white. But I know this is a diverse area. So he got laughs, but I don't think, I think that was out of politeness. Let's put it that way. Because I'm sure people were just like, is he insulting us? Because that's kind of how it feels. It felt like he's basically telling us we're all racist. And, I'm definitely not. I live in London. That is about as diverse. I mean, when you're in the minority, you don't get much more diverse than that. And so I think some of his comedy may have fallen a bit flat. It did pick up a bit later when he moved off the topic. But the funniest point was his observations about Chatham as a town. Spot on. Chatham, just for context, Chatham is a dump. You've only got to read Julian Clary's review when he performed at the Central Theatre. He is not a fan of the area. And probably when he performed, I could see that the audience wouldn't be a fan of him, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, he did pick up on the fact that Chatham's a little bit rough. And the funniest thing as well, because Jason picked this up in his set and he just carried it on, and it turned out nobody in the audience lived in Chatham. We all just came to Chatham because Central Theatre is actually a really nice theatre. So it's a good place to go. And there's parking around, not cheap parking, but there's parking around, which is always a bonus in this area to be able to park somewhere. But it was funny, and it just kept coming up, the fact that nobody lived there and everybody travelled in. I think there was one lady put her hand up to say that she lived there. And Jason said, "What do you think?" And she basically said, "It's a dump." So there you go. And then he was asking, where do you go? There must be somewhere you go. And somebody shouted out, "Yeah, there's a casino in Rochester," which is like the town next door. So it's like you even have to go out of the town to go out. And it's like, yeah, basically you do. There is nothing in Chatham. Chatham used to be good for shopping. That's where I used to spend my Saturday at the Pentagon Centre every weekend with my friend. But the shopping's gone now, I don't know. Yeah, so 20 odd years I've been gone, and I was quite shocked when I went there fairly recently. It is so different. I guess that's COVID killing the high streets. Well, actually not COVID, it's Amazon, isn't it, that's killing the high streets. But there you are. It's our addiction to online purchasing that's killing the high streets. So you've got to keep going back, haven't you? So yeah, so that was my night really of comedy. That's all I've got to say. Other than, I guess, much love and gratitude.